This afternoon, I'd like to talk about a simple technological problem, the negotiation of weight. Architecture's legacy of weight, of course, extends beyond the mechanics of structure into the realms of aesthetics, politics, construction, and science. Encumbered by weight, architecture sinks to a lowly aesthetic status, following Hegel, who envisioned a progressive liberation from the physical world as architecture gave way to sculpture, painting, and finally music. Weight also affiliates with regressive politics, heavy masonry buildings being affiliated with repressive regimes. It is also enmeshed in the practical constraints of program, codes, and building conventions. Finally, architecture's negotiation of weight is defined by outmoded science, quantum dynamics having replaced Newtonian bodies. A standard architectural response, of course, at least since the writings of Semper, have been dematerialization, that is, stripping building materials of texture and visual signature, and thereby any appearance of weight. I'd like to point out, however, that dematerialization is as worrisome as the conditions it redresses. It reduces architecture to a sleight of hand trickery and confines architectural experience to the sensations of sight. Materials simply do not drop away. There is considerable evidence, however, that some 20th century architects really did believe that it should drop away, especially as they aspire to effects achieved by other modes of construction and by other disciplines. Corbusier, in particular, found inspiration in the construction of ships and airplanes, which enabled one to float on the water and the other to drift through the air. The reinforced concrete frame, Corb argued, offered architecture parallel freedoms, and his domino house drawings argued for its light, open flexibility. What the drawings did not show, however, was the system of enclosure that Corbusier was forced to enlist, a heavy stacking of ceramic block. Corb masked this block with stucco, abstracting it to a formal composition of painted planes. He was, after all, also envious of the effects that abstraction afforded painting, and he deployed the wall's planarity as a formal counterpoint to the frame's language of point and line, which he also painted, again, bleaching out any sense of materiality. However, while the abstractions of painting moved closer to an appreciation of the real, the painting of a building, for example, was less important than the visual effects of paint. The abstractions of architecture tended to move in the opposite direction. The myriad qualities of a building were reduced to the visual effects of paint. Notwithstanding the considerable achievement of Corbusier's canonic villas, they achieved lightness by denying materiality, not by offering a new sensation of materiality. As we know, Corb eventually turned to the raw physicality of concrete. His béton brut celebrated the very things that the domino house denied, concrete's weight. Thus, at Marseille, the Unité stands on stout legs, its thick frame housing an entire town. The concrete is both rough, its aggregate exposed and formed with crude planks, and muscular, hoisting its crowning roof that is not a roof. Rather than protecting its family of forms, the Unité's roof exposes them. The building is now both ship and airplane, its passengers sailing on deck, flying above a landscape that is eclipsed to sun and horizon. The weight of architecture, aesthetic, political, and physical, is thrown off by a building that rises on stout legs, loops upon itself on aerated steps, and joins the sky where people sunbathe amidst the smell of fresh air and the delighted sounds of children. It is, without a doubt, one of the most inspired and inspiring moments in modern architecture. But what if we want to join the citizens below and maintain a solidarity with a city which, after all, we cannot leave behind? What if we do not want to lift and rise above architecture's weight, but move within it? Might this occur and release us to freedom rather than, as Unité implies, crush us in servitude? Is there a way, that is, to flip the roof of the Unité? Well, this is exactly how Wolf Prix describes the BMW Welt. Quote, "The roof of the Welt is a reversed roof by Corbusier. At the BMW Welt, I didn't place the roof landscape atop the building like Corb, I flipped it." The first scheme, as you can see at the top, evokes a groundswell that erupts, funnels, and blooms into a cantilever. But as you can see, as the project progressed, a conspiracy of factors ruled against the scheme's seamless execution. The roof's glazed gash, the program's increasing size, and the myriad mechanical and structural complexities. The final structure, as you can see, is not the fluid continuity of forces gathered, cinched, and rippling to earth. Instead, the steel frame relies on an affiliation of concrete pavilions, core shafts, and canted columns, all of which rest upon a substructure that transfers loads to ground. Even the frame is a complex three-dimensional truss, and it is cut in half and yoked to a double cone that has its own discrete structure. In comparison to more conventional construction, the Welt is different in degree, but not in kind. Finally, it is a giant cleaved grand piano, propped on stout legs, punching a platform. Yet, architecture need not illustrate structural principles or adhere to glib imagery. More to the point, does the Welt offer a new sense of the material world or remain trapped between solid and void, the heavy stereotomics of concrete and the lighter tectonics of glass and steel? Having flipped the roof of the Unité, the collection of animated figures now covered by the roof rather than resting atop it, are we now crushed by the weight? Ready? Photographs of the Welt typically frame the dynamic image of double cone and roof under brilliant skies. However, Munich light is more often overcast, and the public arrives from the north, facing the auditorium's chamfered block that deflects to the park along the building's broad western flank. Clad in stainless steel that blends with the gray sky, the forms are quieter than many of the photographs suggest. The roof in particular is rather static, its thick profile seeming to buckle the bent curtain wall below. The interior, however, is another matter. Drawing in like a breath and arcing around the vehicle transfer island, passing between a luminous elevator shaft and a towering stack of shops, restaurants, and offices as a bridge sails above. The light is no longer dull or thick, but soft and luminous. The roof acts as a diaphragm for this breath of circulation, inhaling and exhaling in rhythm to the cadence of path and pavilion, its broad surface also clad in rectangular stainless steel panels that orient to the sweep of the roof's length and bend along their diagonals to follow the roof's gentle curves. Perforated for the passage of air, the roof is literally a diaphragm. The panels also accommodate lighting with gill-like slots and are transparent enough to allow views of the massive complex of supporting steel. The weight is up there. We can see it. Deeper within the building, where the roof bellies out, the structure is clearly visible and the cladding is darker, ominous, heavy. We feel the weight. Especially pulled along the arc's trajectory when we come to the double cone. Here the roof seems sucked downward by the combined centripetal forces of the ramp and supporting steel. The space is adamant, turbulent, like that of a giant blender. Adjacent to this double cone and on the second floor is its subtler partner, The pedestrian bridge drifts lazily, elegantly detailed yet casual in its support and lackadaisical in its geometries, as it wisps along the street or wanders back through the building. Following this latter course and re-entering the building, we sail somewhere between the roof and the floor, aware of both, but oppressed by neither. But is that enough? Isn't the sensation a ruse? The construction of the BMW, after all, is the conventional dance of concrete stereotomics with the lighter tectonics of glass and steel. Yet here, the partners dress similarly and their roles often shift. The concrete tower stack seems suspended, its base eclipsed by the bridge's run as it ascends through a halo of light. And to the right, the concrete transfer island spirals upward until it seems to merge with the roof, which ducks and dives in and out of light, sometimes ethereal, sometimes looming. It is not that we are unaware of the concrete and steel. It is that we no longer grasp them as oppositional or even solid. Stainless steel is a real material, not an abstraction. We can see its thickness and we can feel its cool, matte surface. Yet the steel's ambience suggests that it is more light than solid, as does the concrete's polished surface. The elision of shifting effects gives rise to the sensation of gliding through a density that is both material and spatial. Gentle arcs and lazy meanderings drift through a curious continuity and offer distant views of a public park and, to the other side, a corporate campus. And there's the rub. Some have argued. There's the problem. The Welt reverses the Unité's roof, and we navigate its weight with a light step, but we're sleepwalking, unaware of how deeply we have wandered into the city's machinations. The Welt, after all, is a corporate market hall, geared to the display and sale of luxury automobiles. Its exquisite refinement matches that of its cars. Its light is diffused for maximum seduction, and it neatly divides the public into the wealthy few who will own a BMW and the rest of us who can only look on and yearn. The building is a paragon of post-capitalist spectacle, or so the argument goes. It is charged with desire. Except that the new car owner's promenade is a bit over the top. Their secret ascension into the roof's luxury lounge, their sudden appearance at the head of the grand stair, and their escorted descent to the gleaming automobiles which literally turn on turntables. Except that from the bridge, we do not look up at the owners, we look down on them as they listen to final instructions, fondle their keys, and drive away enraptured. And except that these moments confuse private exchange and public display to such a degree that I, for one, felt as if I were at a mass wedding. When I was there, the parade of owners were predominantly young couples. I was happy for them, but slightly embarrassed to be there, and not at all inclined to rush out and get married myself. Desire, it seemed to me, arose and was dissipated. Architecture is political. All culture is political. Architecture must negotiate the complex practice of construction, but it never does so alone. Architecture must confront gravity, but structure is not a determinant. All these and more are necessary to architecture's inception without any one being sufficient to its appreciation. Finally, architecture also leaves us with this, with something less quantifiable and more haunting, what it feels like. Of course, we follow these intimations at the risk of appearing naive. Unlike at the Unité, where we sail above the world, at the Welt, we are lodged within the world's weight, where we're besieged by corporate agendas, bedazzled by elegant detailing, and baffled by a convoluted structure. This does not, however, preclude the sensation of navigating these complexities, of gliding through weight, beckoned by desire. Thank you.